But if we want to stay in this space and keep working in it, then we have to evolve and we have to continually learn and grow and finding community who are all doing the same and in there and can share insights and what's working. And I think that's been one of the biggest things is always ensuring I'm investing in training and being part of communities that are doing it out there.
Stop and don't spend another single cent on advertising until you listen to this. I'm Marianne Amies. This is Ready, Set, Paid Ads, digital marketing for paid ad success. Let's go. Today on the Ready, Set, Paid Ads podcast, I'm joined by Ashley Boston. Ashley is an ad strategist and trainer, and she shares her expertise on ads. We talk about meta ads, about the rise of AI, and how empowering yourself with the knowledge of ads is the key to being successful as a business owner. So I'm really excited to be joined today by Ashley Boston. How are you going, Ashley?
I am great, Marianne. Thank you for having me.
Oh, such a pleasure. To kick off, could you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I live in Sydney with my husband and daughter. I have my business that I run from home, which I'm really grateful for. I'm a meta ad and funnel strategist. So I work with a lot of variation of clients, which I love the flexibility that gives me, the challenge that it gives me, course creators, e-commerce owners, service-based businesses. And I have been in the digital marketing space since 2008. So that's almost half a lifetime. Like a really long time. But it's something that I kind of accidentally fell into this world. It wasn't something that was planned, and planning and implementing and just continually that journey because this space is ever evolving. But ads is something that I'm really passionate about and have been really focused on meta ads since 2015. And you can't be the jack of all trades. And so that was something that I really loved and enjoyed doing and just saw like that huge opportunity that businesses had to be able to access clients globally. And that was really exciting for me. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. I have courses and memberships that I teach paid ads to as well. And then I've also just started what is called Ad Queens Unfiltered, which is partly teaching meta ads to OBMs and VAs. And then there's a mastermind component of that to take female agency owners and meta ad specialists and really support them in creating a business that is in alignment with their life and where they want to go, rather than the hustle that, we're all exposed to, I guess, in this world.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I definitely love the thought of the no hustle. I'm built an agency over 15 years, and I don't think I've done it with hustle culture. I've tended to just organically evolve as I've needed to. And, I definitely work really hard to make sure my team don't work like maniacs and that it's a really healthy and balanced place to work as well. But I also love hearing that you've been at it since 2008, because I often refer to myself as like the grandmother of digital marketing, because I started admittedly after you in 2010. And I feel like when we started in digital marketing, there wasn't as much noise and hype and talk. And it's really been like the last 5 years where everybody seems to, be a digital marketer or a digital marketing expert. And I think, oh, come on, guys, I was around before Facebook ads was even a thing. You'd probably feel the same.
I know, it's funny to watch how it's evolved since then. Like I worked for a real estate company in 2008, and that's where I started to learn. I was employed as basically a social media manager and to do their marketing and write blogs, but I knew none of that. Like I went through high school, but I didn't do any degrees or anything like that. And everything I learnt, I self-taught. Like I Googled, I researched,
Yeah.
I followed, Marie Smith and Waterfield and like would read articles and I would do all of that and like teaching myself how to edit videos
Yeah.
and tours. And then to go into 2015 with ads. And I feel like you're right. Like it was back then, like no one was ready for that. And I found it so challenging back then. I remember just kind of, implementing and testing, but no one was really prepared to jump on and do something with ads. And so, yeah, it's definitely been an evolution of how we used to do things back then to where we are now.
Yeah, totally. And it changed, it changed the whole landscape. Like before ads, the virality and the organic nature of content, you didn't have to worry. Before it sounds, I don't know, self-serving, but before ads, you didn't need ads, right?
No, it was much more a simple world, much easier to grow, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And free. And I think that was around the boom of so many successful businesses starting before the competition really set in as well. I was talking to someone the other day. Actually, a girlfriend was saying, oh, let's start a product brand and become millionaires and retire. And I was like, yeah, great idea. She's like, we'll be the next White Fox. And I was like, yeah, but what you have to remember is that White Fox launched at a time when everything wasn't saturated. When they launched and how they launched, it was like, 2012, 2013. It's a completely different time on the internet than what it is now. And I think now, I don't think we're at saturation, but there's definitely hints of saturation. How many slightly different versions of a fashion label or a loungewear brand or a protein shake can we have when we're all competing for the same ad space? And I think the way that cult status happened probably 10 years ago was so different to now. And I think in some ways there's bigger opportunities now, but they're different. What you need to put in, and even from a capital perspective, is quite different to how things organically and virally, and even the power of influencers. Like, I think that whole landscape has shifted from 10 years ago that makes it somewhat harder to succeed now.
And you have to, I mean, if we could all just start an e-commerce store and be billionaires, like we would all do this. We would
Yeah.
all do that.
I know. I know
But
I'm
it's
that
not that
boring
easy.
friend.
I think it's easy to see someone online. I follow Brittany Saunders and
Yes.
Kate and what she's doing and how she's changing the whole world, like
Oh,
the whole space that she's in and doing things so different. And I think that's what people need to think about these days is how can I not just follow a trend or how can I stand out and be authentic and do things differently to
yeah.
what everyone else is doing. It definitely has changed. And I think also the agency space is changing too.
Yeah, totally.
It's ever evolving. And I think the next 12 months will be interesting to see how it changes and evolves with all of this, the creative and the UGC stuff becoming more and more popular in
Yeah.
our space with ads and those sorts of things too.
Yeah, totally. And look, I mean, I think Brittany Saunders, she stands out as that case study of how a personal brand alongside retail and e-com brands can make that success magnified. But then I look at her again and I go, but she started in that time, when her blogging days, her influencer days, she is still of that earlier ilk. But I think what she does in terms of that education, the way that she not only talks to her kind of consumer target, but then she also talks to the business market and kind of tries to educate. The stuff she shares about her ad strategy, I think is unheard of for a business owner. And I think it's that amazing place of generosity and not being in that space of lack. She's sharing flat out how she's doing it and letting others then have a go and see, can they in their niche perform in a similar way. Like, I think that attracts you to her, that makes you want to follow her because she comes from such a great place.
And I think there is also, though, the other side of that friends and I were having a conversation about is that it's all well and good to see what someone else is doing in her business and she has the ad spend to do that. But
Hmm.
it's no cookie cutter. You still need
Yeah,
to, have the strategy, but then there's things that go into that of like she has a big social media following,
of course. Yeah.
organic, and thinking about, well, how many of those sales were actually repeat customers or
Hmm.
all of these things that businesses don't think about. They're just
Yeah.
seeing like the shiny object of like, oh, okay, that's all we have to do. So there's that other education part that everyone needs to remember, that it's not just, oh, we'll just put up an ad and hope for the best. You need to understand your numbers and have that strategy behind you too.
Oh, I think, yeah, you're spot on there. I know she did a case study the other day of testing a destination. You would have seen that too. And, when she shared the results, it's like, I spent $300 a day and I got 10 ROAS on this one and, 17 ROAS on that one. But yeah, we know that ROAS isn't just coming because the ad was great. It's coming because you've already built that cult status, that desirability, that following. You've got a loyal, engaged database. You've got loyal that you could be targeting. You've got all this stuff. If me, Karen Smith, starts tomorrow, I'm not going to get that same result. And again, it does set that somewhat unrealistic expectation that you can turn $300 into $30,000. But we know for the average e-com, it just, unfortunately, you just can't print money that way.
No, no, you can't. Not, I wish it was that easy, but no, it's different for everyone. And I think it's just, keeping in mind that it's going to be different for everyone. And there's just no cookie cutter approach when it comes to ads.
No, which we've kind of put the cart before the horse, and I think we might know the answer already. But I guess to ask you then, do you ads?
I do ads. I only meta ads though. I know I think back in the day when there was Google and LinkedIn, and
Hmm.
I mean, TikTok wasn't around then, but I have delved into both.
Yeah,
But I think, like I said, you can't be a jack of all trades. And if you want to be really good at something and hone in on that skill, sure, there's people out there that do both. I just don't have the brain capacity to. And it's also, Google Ads to me is really boring because there's no creative aspect to it. And that's why I decided just to do Meta
yeah,
Ads, because you have that creative aspect of it, although you got to do a little bit more thinking and creative behind that.
yeah.
But yeah,
Fantastic. Google has tried to introduce creative aspects now. They do have campaigns with creative, but I don't think it's not the same because the context is not the same. The way that we receive a social ad in our social feed, I think, is very different to the way that you receive a kind of creative ad on the Google side and the Google placements that they have available to them. But I guess going all in on Meta is still such a huge juggernaut of a platform that is always changing. What have been the challenges for you in keeping up with the changes in the platform?
well, feel like we're always pivoting.
Mm.
I mean, there's been some big things the last few years, changes that have happened in terms of like us going into lockdown and what that looks like, and going through the ebbs and flows of those. And those 2 years were one of the busiest years for me.
Yeah,
But then, coming out of that, Facebook come out with this huge change. And then as you're learning and adapting and figuring out what's working and testing, I think it's the probably some of the changes that are happening right now.
yeah,
So, trying to figure out, okay, well, if we're all going to AI, what does that look like? It doesn't
yeah,
necessarily mean it's working for everyone. And I think that's a little frustrating. I have to try and put that aside and go, how do we adapt to this? Because in some accounts for clients, my detailed interests are still the best performing
yeah.
campaign, no matter what they say. And yeah, and I think it's also because I do a lot of education and a lot of teaching,
Mm.
trying to keep up with those changes, trying to make sure that everything is updated and relevant, and keeping
Yeah,
on that. If you go to launch a course or anything around meta ads, you better be prepared to record at least, I feel like once every month or something that
yeah,
changes. But, I think the other thing is like, even though we're in this space all the time, I still log into an account and go, "What the heck is that? When did that get there?"
Yeah.
Or one account will have it and the other one won't.
Yes.
The other one will look different, and you're, like, trying to figure out, I was building out a campaign the other day for a client, and they had this whole new section in their ad set, and I've never seen it before, and I was like, "All right, we'll just skim past that, and we'll come back to it later, and I'll see what that's all about." But, yeah, it's just ever evolving and changing, and we just have to kinda roll with it. I know
Yeah.
people get frustrated by it, and, yeah, I have a moment here and there where I get frustrated, but if we wanna stay in this space and keep working in it, then we have to evolve, and we have to continually learn and grow, and finding community who are all doing the same and in there and can share insights and what's working. And I think that's been one of the biggest things, is always ensuring I'm investing in training and being part of communities that are doing it out there, Smart Marketer and that, and I'm grateful I've been able to support them through their live courses and as an ag coach. And but every year, it's just because I've gone through that program once, I still go through it every time it launches, because there's just something that you'll pick up that's
Yeah.
different. So, yeah, it has its challenges, and I think the last probably 4 years have definitely been the biggest challenges in this space, and even coming into this year a little bit. So my daughter is now 17 months. So that has been a journey on its own, trying to juggle a business and clients and a baby, and that's brought along a whole new set of challenges.
Yeah.
So so, yeah, I think you just have to keep learning and growing and evolving, and, yeah, even though it's frustrating at times, it's just I still enjoy it, I still love it, but I have those
Yeah.
moments, like I'm sure we all do.
Yeah, yeah, and I think part of digital marketing is that you have to be a lifelong learner. Like, you have to be committed to learning and change as part of that as well. I think it's one of those industries where every day, we've had a newsletter, oh, maybe for 12 years, and it's 2 changes in digital marketing, and we put it out every fortnight. And there's not a fortnight in those 12 years when the team can't send me more than 5 articles to choose from. They usually send me 5 things and I'm picking 2. And it's like, wow, every fortnight, there's at least 5 different things that a platform has announced or that someone's rolling out that, affects the niche of small business in digital marketing. Like, it is just an ever evolving landscape. And then you get to the platform level and they're all fighting to keep relevance and keep share of voice. And, to your point, like, TikTok wasn't around before, and now that's another threat for Meta. So Meta's like, well, what are they doing? And if you think about this year and even last year and that rise of UGC or organic style ads, where is that comes from? That's come from Meta directly trying to compete against how TikTok is succeeding. That obviously always looking at platform and going, how do we stay the most relevant? How do we hold on to our share of spend? I think AI rollouts have been a blessing and a curse. There's so much that's great about it, and then there's so much that's painful. And as you said, sometimes those targeted interests are the high performers, even though at every bloody turn, it's trying to talk you out of it. When you say to clients, just ignore all the warning signs
Yeah, yeah.
that say it'd be 20% cheaper if we were doing ABC. Like, we've tested it. It's not true.
Yeah, I know, I know. It's like, "I've got a warning in here, don't worry, just
Yeah.
ignore it." "What do you mean ignore it?" "Just
Yeah.
ignore
It says
it."
that it'll be 20% cheaper. It's like, yeah, they're lying. Trust me. Like, we can test it again if you like. And the way it turns on things of its own accord as well. Like, oh, all
Yeah.
of a sudden you've got some AI headlines that look revolting on top of your graphic that you've
Yes,
asked for.
enhancements. Don't you love the enhancements? It's the worst feature that they could have delivered, like
It should be called anti-enhancement.
Oh.
Like, the enhancements are, in fact, the worst things possible. I think the wildest thing, maybe 2 years ago, I had a fashion label brand, and there was just like a week where these image enhancements happened, and I dead set, it's like that start of Canva AI where you said change a picture and you ended up with 3 eyes. Like, we had these ads appear where the models were now on generated backgrounds with like hands that weren't quite theirs. And I'm like, we just had to say to the client, we don't know where these came from. Like, we don't, like, they sent a screenshot. We're like, we didn't do this.
You weren't the only ones that did that. There was a client who was going through Train My Traffic Person last year, and she sold something relevant to do with horses, and her horses in her images were all in these AI backgrounds that weren't relevant to where a horse would be. And we did actually find out how to turn that off and get rid of it in the main settings. But yeah, it's all those little things where you're like, well, hang on a second. Well, I didn't ask it to do that. So you're not right in there. There were a few glitches that, yeah, obviously when they test new things tend to happen. I launched a campaign last week in a test, and yesterday I went in to go and check it, and there was only one ad in there, and I was like, where's all my other ads gone? And I still don't know where they've all gone. They're just,
gosh. I know, it's quite stressful.
Just start all over again, will we?
Thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah. And I mean, I don't, as I said, like, I don't doubt, and I've done episodes on here before about the AI tools and platforms. And, you know, I don't doubt that there is some benefit, like, and there is, you know, we see some benefit, but it's certainly none of it is at the point yet where you can just trust the AI tools. And, you know, I had a client say that to me recently. Oh, you know, with all the AI tools, can't we just set it up and let it run itself? And I'm like, no, what's your thoughts on that, Ashley? Setting it up and let it run itself.
Wouldn't the magical unicorn just...
Yes.
Yeah. So I was listening to someone the other day, and this was a question that they asked their agency manager. And they're like, well, if I was that good, then, you know, like, we would just do it all the time for our clients. But I think people forget that it's not a set and forget. And just because you're putting money into Facebook doesn't mean they're going to get you the results that you need. And you have so many other things, creative fatigue, frequency, like looking at the data and finding out what's working. Sure, I have a client who has the same ads running pretty much all year round, and some of them we tweak as we need to, but it depends on the business, you know, like they've got workshops around that they do, and they're all full for the year, but we still run just those brand awareness ads just to keep those coming along. But it's not a set and forget, and anyone that thinks that it's that easy to do, I think more now than ever, there's been a lot of conversation around creative and how it's not just the ad spend and what we put in, but the creative and the huge role that that's going to play. And so we're going to need more and more of that creative, and we're going to need people to create that for us.
Yeah.
So there's such a huge opportunity there within agencies and outside of that. You know, like I've been having conversations with a few that have been going through challenges at the moment with team members leaving, or they're just, you know, clients are sort of, it's just challenging. Like they're leaving. We don't have to have a business that needs to look a certain way, you know, just because you say you're an agency, you don't need to have all the team. You don't need to, it can look however you want it to look. And there's so much opportunity there right now with the way things are moving and changing. Yeah. And businesses are going to need that, especially product-based businesses in e-commerce, you know, like they've all got products, they all need creatives. They all struggle with it, and they're going to need people to do that for them.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's the layers that AI can't replicate. So like even you think you get served those ads where it's like an AI person talking, and it's like, I'm an AI person. Look how wonderful I am. It's the strategy that you need to brief to get that person. It's the emotional intelligence and the intuition and the experience that you need to put into refining that to get the final product that is going to be usable. You know, I don't think there's going to be a situation where the data alone can get you the result for generated creative without a lot of other layers going in, where you're going to need the human touch to get there.
Yeah. And I've been playing around with there's a lady I follow, Dara, I think of her last name. She's in the US, but she doesn't label herself as a ad strategist. She is a creative strategist. So she goes, she does creatives. She's been interviewed by Facebook. And it's interesting because they're doing a lot of testing with the AI feature with inside of the ads manager. But I think that if it doesn't align with the brand, or if it doesn't quite give you the quality of the images that you need, then I don't think it's for everyone.
Yeah.
And I had a brand, they sell high-end jewelry. That just isn't a vibe that they would,
Yeah.
so I think it'll be interesting, but she does talk a lot about using AI creative for brands and what they're doing over there. And, America's like always 5 years ahead of us. So 5 years time, we might finally get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think AI, in general, is interesting in
Yeah.
terms of not just ads, but outside of that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know to have the crystal ball, but I definitely think it will improve, workflow and efficiency. And I can already see the benefits of refining things and the benefits of ideation, but I can't see it end to end. I can't see it end to end where we have no input, we have no role. But again, I don't have the crystal ball to know how that's going to go.
Well, I think I have been diving in ChatGPT and I have been using and setting up custom bots, and I
Yeah.
have an ad strategy one and I have an ad analytical one and all of those things. But the thing that it can't do is create the strategy behind it. You can input everything and it can spit out what it thinks. But at the end of the day, our brains as strategists have that ability to dive into that a whole lot more versus just going in blindly as someone who's never set up a campaign and going to go. And I see it all the time. People think, oh, I've set up an ad, or they're still boosting posts, or I've set an ad and recently all this traffic, I've only had one sign up. And I instantly knew, I was like, what objective? Oh, I've gone for traffic. Okay, well, if you don't understand what you're telling Facebook to do,
Yeah.
then it's going to give you the incorrect
Pathway. Yeah.
and it could also be giving you, if you're just spending more and not getting the results because you think that's going to help, you're just teaching it the wrong thing. Spend more money because it thinks it's giving you the correct data that you're asking for. So I still think that there's such a huge role for us to play, and ads is only the small part of it. I think people forget that the email, ads just the fuel to the fire. You can't just have that. When my mum has written a recipe book, and when that came out a little while ago now, like 6 years ago or something, she was started from scratch. She had no following, nothing. We just set up ads and, like that. And that would be nice if that would happen now.
Yeah.
But it's just so much harder, I think, now to do that with a brand new business. Yeah.
I talk about that a lot as well, like the ecosystem. There is an interconnected ecosystem, and ads. I think I got an episode coming out this week where I basically go on about, ads can't save you. Ads can't fix the problems of your business. Ads can't fix that your website feels really untrustworthy, that your organic presence sucks, that your emails never get sent. Ads can't fix those things. Everything needs to be unified and everything needs to be performing for ads to actually perform the best they can. It can amplify what's great, but it can't fix what's broken. And,
No, and you can have, like Molly Pittman always says, she says, you can have the best ad, but if the other end is broken, then it's not going to help. And I think it's like, people think it's like a quick solution
a magic
to
bullet.
get income.
Yeah.
I've had someone come to me who's been to multiple programs, high-end coaches, and she's even been through like lots of courses, and she's like, oh, I think I finally realized there's no magic bullet. I was like, well,
could have saved you some money.
Of course there's no magic bullet. But I've seen it, even people in the e-commerce space, and not just e-commerce, but they like to get fancy with things and they want to be different and they want to stand out. I've had clients on Wix websites because they can use it better, and it can be really, their website can look so differently. There
Yeah.
is a reason that Shopify is the number one
Yes.
platform for
Yeah.
e-commerce.
Don't fight it.
And they want to do certain things. And then I had another client that had her checkout icon at the bottom of her page.
Wow.
And she's like, I'm getting all these add to carts, but no sales. And I was like, okay. So, and then I'm like, where's the checkout? Oh, it's at the bottom. Why? Well, because it's different. Yeah, but like our brains are taught, you
Yeah.
can't change something that we're so
Yeah.
used to doing. And just little things like
Yeah.
that. But, there's just, just silly little things
Yeah.
sometimes that make sense to them, but not their customers. And we have
Yeah,
to always
totally.
think about what is easy, what are we used to
Yeah.
doing, not
Yeah.
try to
Yeah. Don't
retrain.
fight human behavior. And I think that's the ultimate red flag. Someone that will take you on to run your ads and doesn't ask a single question about your greater business. In the 15 years that I've operated, our processes all have changed to that. We won't start an ads campaign without an audit and strategy. And if you don't want to pay for the audit and strategy, well, then, you're not going to get the ads, because I'm not going to kick off ads for you and then 6 weeks later have you put it on me that they haven't worked, and then realize, oh, your website contact form doesn't work, or your checkout button's at the bottom of the page. It's like, that all the things that we need to make sure that you're ready. And I think the ethics of saying to someone, you're not ready. Like, I get that you need money to come in, but you are not ready to run ads. You would be wasting money right now to do that.
100%. And that is just there's so many. I'm sure you've probably had people come to you from huge
Oh,
agencies,
yeah, totally.
and it kills me. Like,
Yeah.
it honestly breaks, and
Yeah,
that
me
was
too.
part of
Yeah.
creating this other container of part of my business, and to teach others in this space and females to create a business that is from alignment. And then, not just taking on a client for the sake of taking
Yeah.
them on, and not just throwing all this money at a brand when things aren't converting. I've had someone who's had to borrow money from another business because, and then when they hit a certain revenue point, they were going to take another 20% of the profit, and there wasn't even any profit there. Just all these stories that
Yeah.
you've probably had too. And yeah, I just would rather have less clients and
Yeah.
be part of their team and their growth for the long
Yeah.
haul, versus
Yeah.
I've never wanted to grow a team. I've had employees in the past, and yep, would again. But yeah, like VAs to do all the little tasks outside of that, but I don't think I could hire a team ever again.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was my commitment, was to just always work with just a few clients to
Yeah.
support them in growing and scaling, because I can do a better job at that and have a bigger impact there, versus having 20 ad accounts that
Yeah.
aren't getting managed to the best of my ability. And
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's kind of those two schools of like the I've been burnt, there's the I've been burnt because you got put into a huge cookie cutter approach where they did, I remember saying to a physio, she's a pelvic health physio, and I'm like, the problem with your ads is that they've gone, this is a physio, and so they've rolled out the physio template. But you're not a normal physio. You're a physio for women. You're a physio for pelvic health, not neck pain. Like, you're so niche down, but their template for physio, copy paste is XYZ. And I think there's people that get burnt that way. And then the other way they get burnt is they don't realize that they're not empowered to ask the right questions. They're not empowered to,
they
not.
make big promises. They give
Yeah.
them shiny lights.
And
We're
it's
going to
so
do 70
exciting.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's no communication. They're not delivering. I had I had an agency write to me last year, quite a well-known agency,
Yeah.
asking if I would create creative content for them and be gifted the products. And I was like, for their clients, and I was like, do you have time to like create creatives for free for your clients? And no, like, just the
Audacity.
yeah. And I wrote back to her, and obviously she was delegated that role, but I just was like, really, as like a female,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, You almost who received that email, but I was just like, really?
Yeah.
Really? That's,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, sure.
But do you feel good about this? Do you feel good about yourself for asking me this?
Yeah, I have a baby and running a business and
Mhm.
solo parenting at the moment. Like it was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sure. I have plenty of time to do that.
Yeah. I think when you work with a business that is driven by volume, unless you're a big, lucrative client for them, you get underserviced. And I think that is the risk. I think to go for a big agency, you need to be a big business. You need to be a business that's going to be something that they want to case study, or that you're putting in enough that you're worth enough to them. Because I think big agencies do take on a lot of smaller businesses that are kind of attracted to the brand and the prestige and the promise of what they've done for other businesses, but don't get prioritized there because they're too small for
Yeah, unfortunately, but hopefully
it.
that will change.
Yeah. Oh, look, I think the landscape will sort itself out over time. And it's the same with I'm sure you know who I'm referring to, but, the big ad programs that promise to help you get rid of all the terrible agencies and do it yourself. But the big ad program itself is not actually skilling people and empowering people in a sustainable way. It's just, again, selling the success stories of big clients. But then the smaller person isn't going to have the budget to do the strategies they tell you to do. And also you get left on your own really quickly in those programs.
Well, and also, yeah, there are a few, and I do know people who are in them, and I think it also comes down to is the business owner also willing to implement? And a lot of that comes from, them not willing to do the work either. And so there's always two sides to the story.
Yeah.
I think that I am learning in some of
Hmm.
this space just because I have someone on the inside in one of those programs. And yeah, what it's done for them has been massive, but it also
Yeah.
comes down to who your audience is. And if
Yeah.
you have a really niche audience who
Yeah.
has lots of money to spend,
Oh, yeah.
going to be so different for someone who is maybe in a totally different niche like swimwear there's so
Right.
much out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely both sides of it, and they're all run by men.
Yes, I know.
That's at the thing too, which
Yes.
yeah,
The
it's
bros.
yeah,
The bros.
and I think that's the biggest thing on this journey is
Yeah.
finding people who are similar, who
Yeah.
have that feminine energy as
Yeah.
well, but I never realized just how, like, male dominant
Yeah.
strategy is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, finding those people, and then that's been a huge challenge until probably the last 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
You can be in masterminds, which, I invested in and programs, but everyone's different. Everyone has a different business. It's not
Yeah.
related. I just don't
Yeah.
think anyone gets it like another person.
Totally. And also when your purpose and your core and your guiding light is genuinely helping people. I think that is I want to say I don't know too many male run agencies where the genuine heart is I just want to help people.
Well, and I think that comes to us as females.
Yeah, totally.
And it's
How we
how
need.
we are,
Yeah.
like, and probably why we're, yeah, sometimes in the way
Yeah.
we have set up our businesses, but also where, I'm a mum, and how my business fits in with that now. I
Yeah.
have a husband who goes away a lot, and so they don't have that. They don't have
Yeah.
to worry about that. So if
Yeah.
they have a partner, they can probably just stay home and enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so very different for
Yeah.
us, and coming from a place that's authentic has just always been an honesty. Like, I'm probably too honest, people would say. If you're not ready for something and if something's not working, then, like, why would I just say
Yeah.
yes for the sake of it?
Yeah. Totally.
But I had a client actually email me this morning, and she's like, "You're probably getting sick of me, like, trying to make up my mind." I was like, "Honestly, I couldn't care less." Like, you either do it or you don't. Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not worried. Doesn't bother me these days. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lose sleep. Well, I'm already losing sleep. So anyway, that's
Not
not work
only you
related.
anyway.
Oh dear. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely nice to talk to someone that is, I think, driven in a similar way to myself as well. But I guess we've had a great chat. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I think to wrap up, what would be your advice to somebody that is maybe wanting to launch ads or get into ads for the first time? What do you think they should do, or, where should they start before they start?
I always say that it's going to maybe cost you more upfront to
Mm.
invest in a mentor or to invest in a paid ad strategist to start with, whether that's just getting some insight. You could go to, this is the other thing that gets a bee in my bonnet when people say, just go to YouTube because it's free. You can
Oh,
learn it
yeah.
all to do yourself. Well, that's all well and good, but
Yeah.
it's outdated and it's not really going to give you what you need. People have spent a lot of money trying to do it themselves
Yeah.
when they could have just invested in someone. And, I'm not saying you have to go and get an ad manager, but just someone to support you in guiding you and helping you set up your campaigns and getting like the basic foundations. People that in the past have offered just, oh, set up and there you go. But then there's no education in behind that. So
Yeah.
I would invest in that. I would find someone that can support you in really giving you all that information.
Mm.
I think courses are okay, but they need to be live because so much changes.
Yeah.
And it depends where you're at in your journey as a business owner as well. But that's where I would start as a business owner. If you're someone looking to get into ads to support your clients, like again, I would find someone to work with to support you in that. And like I've had OBMs and Shopify experts come through programs
Yeah.
needing to learn just so that they can not necessarily run ads, but go and set up pixels or like
Yeah.
help them to understand what they need to do before they go and find someone in the ad space to help them. And I just would educate yourself. I know Ezra Firestone has a course in Shopify that is free to access.
Mm.
And I went through that when I actually set up an e-commerce store and went through that to learn how e-commerce and ads work
Yeah.
a long time ago. But it will give you key foundations. I wouldn't rely on the Facebook blueprint. I know that there's training in there, but it's
It's skewed.
yeah. And also, do not trust a Meta ad
No.
employee
No, never. Or a Google
or a
one for
rep
that matter.
because
Never.
a rep, I've had people saying to me, "Oh, but I have a Meta ad rep. Well, how's that going for you?" Well, they told me to spend more money.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, and yeah, they don't know your numbers and they don't know your business. They don't take the time to think about a strategy for you. So just maybe stay clear from any reps. And most of them are third party,
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah, they
actually
are now. Yeah.
Facebook. So yeah, that's probably my
Hot tips.
advice.
I love that. I was going to say before when you were talking about AI, I was sort of like, it's kind of like the Google ads manager who calls you and has no idea about Australia, has no idea about the baby product you're selling, but gives you all this amazing
Yeah.
advice on how search terms could work. And, it's never the amount of times it's soul crushing when a client says, the Google ads person called me, so we just made some changes. And you're just like, oh, kill me. There
Yeah.
goes our 12 months, of work
Plan.
because the
Yeah.
Google ads manager, do you know what they changed? Tell me what they changed. Go and change it back.
Yeah. And you just have to be patient because
Yeah.
it's not a magical, like we said, it's not a magic bullet. And you do have to be patient with this platform. Sometimes
Yeah.
it takes, a couple of months before you find what works.
Yeah.
If you're doing it in a way that you're still making money back and can still grow throughout those months until you can really dial it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just patience.
Completely agree. And comes all the way back to there's no magic bullet. There's no quick fix. And I think you need to start doing ads when you've got the funds to see it through. It's not a 1 month. I'll just try it for 1 month and if it works, then I'll blah, blah, blah. It's sort of like, no, you're going to need to try it for a few months before you actually can understand the potential of what it can and can't be.
And if you have the fundamentals, you've got an email list, you're growing it consistently, you're getting sales, your organic socials,
Yeah.
it all goes hand in hand. And I think people just think, oh, quick, like I just want to get some sales. But I think Facebook ads is just that thing on top. It's the cherry on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else needs to come into play with that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. As I said, it's been such a great chat.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And where can people connect with you?
So my main Instagram is actually Boston HQ. You can connect with me there. I'm on LinkedIn as well, but that's where I mainly hang out.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again. Thank you to everyone for listening again today. And I'm sure I'll speak to you soon. That's a wrap on another episode of Ready, Set, Paid Ads. If you're looking for done-for-you services, training to upskill you in ads management, or free and paid resources to help you plan and execute better ads, head to wiseupmarketing.com.au. If you've loved this episode, be sure to subscribe for future episodes. And if you know someone that would love this podcast too, go on and share it.